if you want, should we dive in?
Let's do it.
Great. Alrighty. Well, so we have Geert Hendrix here. So welcome to the listeners to the Too Weird to Live, Too Rare to Die, a podcast telling stories of founders, investors, and operators working to turn the world we live in into a better place. So Geert, founder and CEO at Farmwall. Mate, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So here, before we actually dive in and learn more about you and Farmwall and your entrepreneurial journey, background, so on and so forth, we're actually going to throw it over to Wallo, who's prepared a song to welcome you to the show. So I'm going to throw it over to our man.
Okay. I will give you the lyrics because at some point you may or may not be able to hear what I say. Just, prepare yourself, brace yourself for this. I'll send them to the chat, I guess. Yeah. And then it's nothing too long, And then I have a drum line somewhere. He's got no photo on LinkedIn, but he knows how to build a farm with some fishing. He's meditating for living, trying to build a world full of giving. He's here, dear, he's a man. He's got no photo on LinkedIn, but he knows how to build a farm with some fishing. He's meditating for living, trying to build a world full of giving. He's here, he's a man. He's a man. He's here, he's a man. Yeah, kind of nervous there, but yeah, did not fuck it up.
Ow.
Yeah. I was like shaking through. I was like, oh my God. Yeah.
Oh, classic.
Yeah, so we went to
that nearly brought me to tears.
We went to your LinkedIn, and then I went to your LinkedIn. I didn't see any. Let me stop that drum beat quickly. Yeah, I went to your LinkedIn, didn't see any photos, and I was like, why is this gentleman hiding his lovely face? So I went to YouTube and I found your face. I was like, he's handsome. Why is he hiding his face? What is this? And I said I would add that to the song. Yeah, I hope it wasn't too weird. Yeah, but yeah,
certainly weird. Certainly weird.
I must say, it's the first experience I've had to somebody writing a song about me. So, yeah.
You've never been serenaded?
I've
never been serenaded here. Not once.
Never.
Well, look, to be honest, nor have I. It's probably probably a bit weirder if you have been serenaded on more than one occasion. But glad that it's your first. So here, hey, so thanks for really in all seriousness. So thanks so much for coming on the show. Athyna, obviously producers of the show, really kind of want to make an impact ourselves from a company perspective, and really excited to talk to other people that are really out there trying to, as I said earlier, make the world a better place. So, hey, for starters, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Bit of background, how we got to here. Tell us a little bit about yourself here.
Yeah, no worries. So starting with where I'm from, I grew up in Belgium, in a little country town called Genk. And yeah, moved here about 11 years ago now, predominantly waving the Belgian beer flag and selling Belgian beers as my main profession. So business development and export and distribution. So yeah, a couple of years ago, about 5 years ago, actually, I got over that, and like beer is a fun job in your 20s, but in my 30s, I was looking for a bit more purpose and a bit more meaning, and I couldn't really pinpoint exactly at the time what that was going to be. So I made a decision. Okay, I'm quitting my job. I'm going to detox from this need to have a wage and being stuck in that same routine and pattern. And start there, and took about 6 months to really start to kind of get an idea on the direction I wanted to go in. I was already doing things at a time that sort of were pretty much in the background, and by actually allowing myself to pay attention, they came to the foreground. And it was around zero waste living, around doing something for the environment. And personally, I loved gardening and was a bit of a fish nerd, so and starting to play around and like, okay, how can all these elements come together in something that I actually can enjoy doing on a day-to-day basis? And yeah, slowly over time that became Farmwall. And yeah, we're now just end of financial year in Australia, so just a couple of days ago, so we finished our fourth financial year in business, which yeah, for a startup like us is quite a significant milestone.
That's great, man.
Yeah, very, very happy about that. Yeah, and today it's like we're doing a lot of amazing things, and I'm really excited about where the company's at and where we're going to go over the next couple of years, and the potential for growth, both in the business as in impact that is starting to show. So yeah, every day I'm getting more excited. I want to get more done, but
not enough hours.
Not enough hours in a day.
Not enough hours in every day. I feel that. So obviously, there's a lot of ways to start a business. A lot of things that you can go out and focus on. Obviously, you've chosen impact and sustainability and so forth. Not everybody goes down that route, so it's obviously something that's passionate. Well, it's a passion of yours, I would assume. So talk to us a little bit here around where did that passion come from? Why did you actually want to go out and start something in kind of the sustainability space?
I think it came down from being always outdoors and in nature as a kid. Like my toys were turtles and guinea pigs and building a fortress in the woods kind of thing. So I was always outdoors, always doing something with animals or building fish tanks, building fish ponds, etc. So I think it's that biophilic concept. Have you heard of that? Biophilia, where like a deeper understanding.
No, not a whole lot. No, I don't think I know the term.
So, biophilia is where we as humans are all part of the biodiversity of life and the ecosystem of the earth. And it's feeling that really close connectivity to the natural environment. And I think it was an ongoing frustration I've had as a kid that plastics, waste, finding those things in nature and just ongoingly saying to myself, it doesn't make sense what the world is doing. And I think I've got given me a really big, deep drive to build something that makes sense.
Yeah.
Both financially, but also from an environmental perspective. And I'm an enormous fan of the circular economy, and I think every startup in the whole world should be like building their business, either hardware, software, high tech, low tech. Like every business model should be circular in its nature. And that takes a different approach to building a linear model where we build something and pass it on and the next person passes on, etc.
Can you give us some examples of the like circular business models? Because I mean, I understand the term, but like, what's especially for listeners as well, like, so I understand and so they understand. Can you give us some examples of what's a great circular business model? What does it look like?
Yeah, subscription and memberships rather than transactions. And in a software environment, we're delivering an app and a service and a software outcome that's pretty straightforward. You're not creating a lot of waste in that process. But from a hardware perspective, it raises a lot of questions. Okay, how do you build for an appliance as a manufacturer, but you're not selling that appliance as a transaction, you're selling this appliance as a subscription? And how do you then bring people on board of your story and your brand and actually that they want to be part of it? And you create an ongoing monthly revenue stream, and the people basically get the best version of your product at all times, but you're taking the other end back as well. So it's no longer you passing it on to the consumer. And then when the consumer is no longer convinced about your brand or the quality of your service, they've got the responsibility to pass it on to the next person, and then et cetera, until there's someone at the end of the line who can't pass it on to anyone anymore. And it becomes costly. And the cost of that whole process is not reflected in the price we pay in those transactions. So it's building business models that are circular in nature, that will where the manufacturer and the business will take full responsibility of the quality of the products that they deliver, both in the forward direction to the consumer, but also taking it back from the consumer. The consumer shouldn't be put in a position where they end up with a product that they're no longer convinced about, to then having that to pass it on to the next person. Yeah,
it's interesting. reminds me of Patagonia a little bit, with the, they have a lifetime guarantee on most items of clothing. And I've heard Yvon Chouinard, founder of Patagonia, on a number of occasions talk about the fact that, trying to change the mindset of people to not be consumers, but to be owners, owning a piece of clothing and owning, like I'm wearing a pair of shorts now, and I've got a big, the phone pocket, the right-hand pocket, the phone pocket, it's just basically torn to bits. And every third time that I put my phone in my pocket, it slides through my shorts and just ends up on the ground. And my girlfriend yells at me every time. But I love these shorts. And yeah, they're like torn to shreds and they're falling apart, but, they still cover my, private parts and keep me warm. So I'm going to keep wearing them, with that whole...
Don't put your Bitcoin passwords in there, though.
yeah, that's right. Cool, sweet. I'm glad that we got a Bitcoin reference in early, so that's good. Hopefully, by the 20-minute mark of this conversation, we'll be talking about cryptocurrency and living on Mars. But so circular economy. So tell us about Farmwall, though. So how do you fit into the economy? What you're building? How does it actually work?
Yeah, so we're building hardware and software, but predominantly with the purpose to educate people on how to grow food in the city. So we're enabling everyone, even if you're limited in time or limited in space, everyone in the city to grow their own food, and we're delivering the tools, hardware and software to basically scale that and make that experience as great as possible. Yeah.
So yeah, go on. Sorry, cut you off.
Yeah, so we're enablers. We build tools and educational models to help people grow their own food in the city.
So me, for example, let's use me, for example. I've got a small 2-bedroom kind of with one study house in South Melbourne. Little backyard area, like little patio, tiny little front yard, pretty small kitchen, regular size lounge room. Like what is capable? What are we capable of? What am I capable of producing on my own inside of like my living arrangements kind of thing?
Yeah, I've been having my eye the whole time on that timber dresser that you've got
Gotcha.
in your back image there.
Yeah.
So
talk to me.
How much food can you grow on there, you reckon?
Well, I could probably plant a few spuds in the lower drawers, maybe. Little blueberry bush on the left-hand side. I love a blueberry. Maybe a radish or two. No, I don't know. Here, you tell me.
Yeah, so with our system, you'd be growing 9 lettuce heads and about a kilogram of microgreens, like a kilogram of microgreens every fortnight and 9 lettuce heads a month. So that's
Wow.
it's 2 kilograms of microgreens and a number of lettuce heads, which is basically pretty much all the fresh greenery that you need to add to your diet. Because microgreens are about between 4 and 40% more nutritious than your fully grown produce. And they also consume a lot of waste because in supermarkets they wrapped in plastic punnets, like cling wrap, etc.
Yeah.
So having them in your house allows you to add them to your diet, add fresh greens to your diet, bring more taste into it, but also not having to drive to the supermarket to pick up a bunch of coriander.
Oof.
Or
a
bunch of basil. Like you'd have it straight there, and also it allows you to have a conversation with your partner about what you're growing. So it doesn't always have to go about what happened at work or this guy. No, it's now about okay, we're actually collaborating inside the house to actually grow delicious greens. And you're doing that in a learning environment. So you're learning about aquaponics, hydroponics, biodiversity, and balancing an ecosystem. And at the same time, you're basically connected to an app on your phone, which there's pretty much like a social community, people helping each other out with problems, but also live engagement. So urban farmers will host Q&As, will have guest speakers on board. So we're really building that community, and all our customers are connected to each other. And if you do that, if you ask Apple if they would like all their customers to be able to speak to each other on the platform, helping each other solve problems, they go like, "Ooh, that's risky business." But like in our case, it actually makes sense because people love to help each other out when it comes to growing food and keeping pets, etc. And basically, it gives you an activity that brings positivity and well-being into your home, brings greenery and well-being onto your plate, fresh nutrition, and actually eliminates waste and brings that greenery into your house as well. And like our human nature, our brains, we've got the animal brain, and the animal brain basically is always looking for food and water, and because of that, is always slightly stressed. It creates a kind of the nervous system. I'm not good in all the neuroscientific.
That's right. We didn't sell you as a neuroscientist anyway, mate. So it's all good. You can get away with that one.
But basically, if there's food and water growing in your environment, your nervous system calms down quite significantly, and you automatically feel less stressed. So your benefits of growing your own food is like growing your own food. You're having better conversations. You're learning. You're better connected in the community. And all of that can be done on that little desk right behind you there. And same with Matthias, he's got the white desk on the right. Those two areas are perfect to turn into very productive food areas. Yeah.
That's interesting, isn't it? I totally agree with you. It's maybe it's like what is it? Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know, we need shelter, we need food, we need water. If you do have all those things in eyesight, you do feel good. And I mean, this is just anecdotal, but I mean, I always grew up on large properties. I grew up I didn't grow up in the city in Melbourne. I grew up on the Mornington Peninsula. I grew up on 5 acres. We always had veggie patches. Fresh produce. My dad stayed with him over COVID for a little bit last year. We didn't have a massive veggie patch, but like every morning we'd go in and we'd go out and pick a few tomatoes for breakfast that we'd have with our eggs and growing potatoes and this and that. And it is just a nice feeling, walking out and grabbing some ripe, fresh vegetables from your backyard and putting them on your plate. There is something really rewarding about it. I totally agree. It's like that. I don't know. You feel like you're doing things the right way, because I think inherently, like at the back of our minds, people that are smart, and thoughtful, like I feel like we kind of like subconsciously know what goes on with food and that we're kind of like just not destroying the planet, but like pillaging it a little bit. It's nobody's fault, but we're at this point where there's so many people on the planet. I think we understand that. I think humans understand that. Like subconsciously. So just for anybody, if you're listening, by the way, just want to, so the back, the dresser that Geert was talking about is around like 1.5 foot long by about 3.5 foot, 4 foot. So not bad. So what about you here? Like, what do you got growing in your house? You must be like supplying Woolworths, maybe.
Yeah, one day.
What does your setup look like?
I recently moved in a couple of months ago with my partner, and she's actually she lives in a penthouse apartment, so she doesn't have a garden, but she's got a very large balcony, and on the balcony she's got about 150 different pots.
Whoa!
And she's growing a wide variety of little herbs and veggies, and she basically brought me onto her habit, where every day we just get a little bowl out of the kitchen and scissors and just pick leaves of a number of different pots and make a mix. And for it's very grounding, and it's that kind of moment where you kind of watch the sunrise, you kind of picking leaves, having a conversation, and giving a wash. And it's that kind of pre-routine to making dinner. And the amazing thing is to back that up, and the feel good that you get from it as well is that there's evidence around for our gut health. We need about 30 to 60 varieties of plants per week, sorry. And that means that it's not the volume that we eat, but it's the variety that we eat. So if you can eat like 20 heads of lettuce and think that you're doing the right thing by your body, and I'm not saying eating 20 lettuce is a bad thing, but
it's a weird thing.
It's a weird thing, yeah.
No, go on.
Unless you're doing a burger eating contest, then you can.
Yeah, that's right.
but like having that little bowl of like 30 different leaves in it is actually the diversity of that, and the microbial and the nutritional diversity of that is actually great for us, because it that's what our bodies need. It's that kind of diversity of produce that's grown in a natural way. And in our supermarkets, unfortunately, like there is diversity, but like trying to pick a very large number of herbs, you spend $50 in buying all the little plastic sleeves of all parts of all the little bits and pieces. And then the larger produce, the question that's been coming up for a number of years now is, okay, what is the nutritional value of monocropped produce? Because the soil health decreased by such a large amount, the nutritional value of our produce grown on with monocropping agriculture might be at like 10-20% of the nutritional.
Wow,
where
that's crazy.
Of the produce that you have in your backyard and on the farm in Mornington Peninsula. So,
is that proven? Like those stats that you said, is that what we understand to be true, or is that like an estimation, or is it anecdotal? Or when you talk about that, like the food that we eat from the supermarket?
There's quite a lot of data around that, and reports about the nutritional value being decreased incrementally. And I think I read a report not that long ago about bread, and where it's specifically about wheat and the value of the bread that we eat today compared to the bread that we ate 100 years ago. How that nutritional value has changed, and that's visible in our dental records, in cancer stats, in diabetes stats, and on all those kind of different things. Our food is one of the biggest challenges that we have as humanity, and there's people on the spectrum that would say, okay, there's too many people on the planet, like we can't feed everyone anymore. It's like It's just impossible. So we need to get rid of a few, or like put a limit on the cap of how many people can be on the planet, etc. I personally think that humans are the most amazing system the planet has. Like we can change the planet in such a fast way, in a negative way, but also in a positive way. It's how we're going to do things, and for now we adapt things and adapt our way of doing business and our way of designing technology, and do it the David Attenborough way, and you kind of implement nature into your design, live in coherence with nature, rather than trying to be a machine that's outside from that actually can fix our food systems. And there's enough technology that allows us to grow food in the city. There's enough technology to improve agricultural land. Like Agtech is coming with such great inventions to do it the right way, and to bring that change. But we as consumers have to choose, and that we want to be part of that as well.
Yeah. So in terms of where we're heading, so we're at 7 or 8 billion or whatever it is as a human species on the planet, and 2050, whatever it is, 9 or 10 billion. So you think, like, rather than stress about the amount of people that we have on the planet, you think that, I think of the saying, necessity is the mother of invention. Like you think that human ingenuity can get us out of this food shortage problem, and basically through the use of technology and innovation, we can fix the overpopulation issue.
Yeah, but only if you implement nature in that mix. So, for example, the farmer of the future is referred to as more of a full spectrum farmer. So he's going to get carbon credits to regenerate the soil and approach no-till farming. That would lead to maybe decreasing his yields by 30%, but the quality of the yield is going up by more than 50%. What that effect might have an effect on his revenue, but he's now getting revenue from renewable energy because he's got solar panels on the farm. He's getting money from carbon credits. He's getting money from ecotourism, from actually, and consumers want to buy their produce where they get honesty and transparency, and they know that it's grown in good soil, because the awareness around nutrition is growing, and the effect it has on our health. So the farmer will build more direct to consumer relationships, which will eliminate the margin of the retailer, and leave the farmers with higher profits. So those kind of models all start to make sense, where a farm becomes more regenerative, it becomes smarter in technology and energy, it becomes better connected to the consumer, and it actually is a source for capturing carbon in the soil, back into the soil. So, and that way a farm suddenly starts to make a lot more sense, and it's almost like you bring in that permaculture principles, that actually blend them with a bunch of technology in the mix. And if you kind of blend technology and permaculture on a farm, and actually tell that story to the consumer who wants to hear it, and who wants to have that relief that what they're eating is actually transparent and solid, and it's grown in good soil, then suddenly it becomes very possible for us to live regeneratively on a planet. And then the technology in the cities as well, like now COVID's cleared most of the car parks. Like there's layers and layers and layers of empty car parks in the city. Like we could be growing high protein insects, like crickets, 61% or 67% clean protein. Barramundi, trout, mushrooms, like the ability, the amount of food that we can grow in cities, car parks, solving grey water issues, solving so many issues that the city already has, is incredible. Like if we change our diets from beef to insects, like we can feed billions of people, and still sorry for that ping.
It's all right. Wasn't sure if anyone else got that. My eardrum still exploded.
I checked, I saw Matthias checking. We weren't sure.
Yeah. Don't know if the listeners. that just sort of shock ping in this system.
I was lucky enough to be invited by one of my customers to go to Future Food System in the city, which is built by Jules Becker. He's an amazing individual that's building these new buildings that actually grow food. And we were eating crickets and yabbies, and a cricket, like, if you ask me, like, to have a source of pure, clean protein that hasn't been infected by antibiotics like beef, that hasn't been killed in inhumane manners, that hasn't been transported all over the world, is grown right there, and like where you're standing, that's where it's grown, and turned into a very high protein, which is tastes nutty. So it's like eating like very tasty, crunchy little nuts.
I've had termites.
Yeah, eating a handful of those is like this. You get the same.
Termites? Did you say why?
Yeah, I can see your face. I had to say it so that I would get your reaction. We actually.
These are Wallo's first words on the podcast outside of his singing. I've had termites.
Yeah,
now tell us though.
I've had termites. They're pretty good. They taste milky. Actually, we fry them, season them. Yeah, it's crazy. So when it rains, they're attracted to light, and we just get bowls of water. So when they fall into the water, and they're like, haha. And then we pack them and fry them. And yeah,
really?
that's lunch. Yeah, exactly.
Full on.
I have people eat the termites that fly. Those are the ones I'm talking about. So there are termites, the ones that live in the ground, the ones with the hills and everything. People eat the queens. They have this big bum. It's just really big. They eat those. Yeah, exactly. People eat those, and grasshoppers, crickets. Yeah. So as he mentions this, is like, yeah, this is pretty normal here, I guess. It's like, oh yeah, have you eaten? Yeah, normal. It's just like
while I was in Nigeria, here, just so you know, while I was in Nigeria, Matthias is in Argentina, so we've all probably got pretty different diets and routines going on. That's pretty interesting though. That's how we used to live, right? I mean, hunter-gatherers was like some, I mean, from what I understand, was sometimes meat, but oftentimes like, crickets and bugs and so forth. Like, was that be fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. It's again to what we discussed before about picking 30 to 60 different leaves of your pots on the balcony. It's diversity. And insects bring so much diversity into the hunter-gatherers' meals that actually kept our gut biome extremely healthy. And in our food, we need the bacteria that are living in the soil and that are living in nature, that gets transferred into our food and come into our body through our food. And the more sterile everything becomes, and the more we go to monoculture and chemicals, etc., the more our bodies decrease in good bacteria that are part of our immune system as well. So
interesting. So what about how do you feel about cultured meat here? Like the obviously lab grown, let's call it. I had I interviewed Thomas King from Food Frontier. I'm not sure if you know Thomas, he's Victorian. Couple of years ago now. But I've been really interested in that kind of side of things. How do you feel about the move to kind of lab grown meat or cultured brewery grown meat, so to speak?
Yeah, I'm not against it. Absolutely. I think it's the technology is developing and similar. I see a point in the future where technology and nature kind of going to blend together, and we've got this perfect mix. At this stage with food, we've got the artificial, the customized, and the lab grown is sort of going in one direction, where we can basically make food taste, like make a banana taste like a burger and those kind of technologies. So it's all amazing, but like what I can see from a consumer point of view is that people want trust and transparency, and by customizing, faking, lab growing, I think it's great to showcase technology, and there's huge potential of it from an ability to decrease the need for beef and for land grown meats. But I think that trust from the consumer will come to a point of view where how can you customize that nutrition and how can you really enrich the nutritional value of those foods and showcase that the decrease on the environment, etc., and actually make them really transparent, healthy foods that make sense. I think I don't know too much of the lab-grown meat, but I've heard that there's some procedures in place that you still need to harvest certain elements from live animals to be able to do that.
Let's take a biopsy. Yeah, for sure.
I'm excited about the technological progress, but I don't think it's the end of the line. I think it's gonna evolve into next stages where it's gonna make more sense from
No, that makes sense for sure. So, well, that's a great problem to solve. Amazing stuff. So, what has the journey been like, I guess? Obviously, you said you're 4 financial years in now. How hard was it to find product market fit? What are some of the pain points? Tell us about the journey, mate. That's what I'm very interested in the problem, but I'm also really, keen to hear how it's been building the business and getting it to the point it's at now.
I'm not gonna lie and say it's easy, and it was all, or still not as easy. In a startup, especially one like ours, where you're dealing with so many global issues and trying to solve real meaningful problems, and having to keep a business kind of growing and evolving through that. And with COVID in the mix as well, it's for us has been we've been growing and pivoting and growing and pivoting, but also really learning extreme amounts of information over the past 4 years to actually adapt. And that market is evolving, and that market opportunity is evolving. And for us now, we're really working on making that experience financially viable, closed loop, but also flexible from the consumer's perspective. So we've raised a pre-seed about 2 years ago. Then we were on our way to raise a seed fund before COVID hit, and we've had a year and a half of COVID now. So we are just now again back onto the pitch decks to raise our seed round, which will be completing between July now and December. 4 years on the books, but we're still a very early stage startup after 4 years. So we're still just after pre-seed went back to bootstrapping and are now back into position where we can go for seed. And managing and staying with your head above water in the number for that amount of time, because 4 years is a very long runway. To cover with 5-6 staff all the time. So it definitely takes a lot of effort personally and to keep that funded and growing at the same time.
100%. So just a question around the fundraising side of things. So obviously to raise some money a couple of years ago and then be raising again now, you said that you raised some pre-seed money, then you went back to kind of like bootstrapping for a little while. What was it that was like disjoined in terms of like pre-seed to seed to more? Because it sounds like there was something maybe that you weren't particularly ready with. There was something that wasn't stacking up. What was it, just from an investment perspective? I would love to know, because it's just there's so much. You go. Sorry.
You go. Sorry.
No, I was going to say that there's lots of amazing ideas coming out of the Agtech, I guess, industry. I've been watching a few startup. I've been watching StartMate. I watched Galileo. watching some demo days. The virtual demo days, online demo days of late. And there's just so many really cool ideas going on out there. But I just want to know what it looks like from somebody actually doing it. How to try and find some commercial viability and what the process looks like. Yeah. So what happened from the pre-seed to now? Because it seems like there was something that you needed to work on. What? Talk to me about it. I'm interested.
Yeah, so after our pre-seed, we predominantly built up our hardware service model. So we had Farmwall in restaurants and offices, and Farmwall was existing of we had urban farmers who kind of germinated the produce, delivered it to the units, and then get engaged with people on the work floor and the restaurant to actually bring that holistic experience. So it was actually delivering well-being outcomes and staff engagement and a whole experience of urban farming in the workplace and in the restaurant space, and then increasing that technology to deliver those outcomes. And then COVID happened. So basically, we had no business model. So offices were empty, restaurants were empty. You're in the first nice to have category. So it was up very big. Okay, COVID happens. Our hardware model kind of implemented on imploded on itself.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's pretty much. I'm very glad that we weren't any bigger than we were at the time. We had 12 staff. We were active in about 7 skyscrapers in Sydney. So if that was 3 times the amount, I would have had to shut the doors. I would have never survived. Never survived it if it was bigger than that. But because we were still relatively small, we were able to pivot and adapt. And for us, it showed immediately the need for software. So and that our hardware model on its own wasn't going to be viable long term, and we needed to develop a software model attached to that could actually deliver the similar outcomes through education. And what we were doing on the workflow was educating as a pathway to engage people. And now it became clear that with supermarkets running empty, people working in home offices, the whole channel becoming a bit harder to work with, we needed a software model that could educate and engage people around the active growing food. And that's taken us from B2B into B2C, which was a whole experience.
That's what I was thinking.
We had to learn about e-commerce and all this, and all those elements and implement them into our business development.
So when you say you had to pivot, you actually had to totally scrap your business model and kind of start fresh with the same vision, same values, totally different execution.
Correct. Yeah.
Full on. Wow. What a bummer.
And then you're in a position where you can't raise funds, or definitely not a seed round. That's back to the drawing books and start from scratch and bootstrap and cough up. Go back to the FFF model and cough it back up, and especially during COVID. It's been a very interesting time for the world, and I've sweared at it many times because of the process that I had to go through in the business. But on the other end, looking back, I think there's a few quotes from Steve Jobs: "You can only connect the dots looking backwards." Where I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity that we've had to actually develop our business from that perspective. But also, the world has changed so much.
Oh my God.
It's so amazing to see the new opportunities that are arising from that, and how it's changing the consumer values and consumer needs, and how when you approach a business model from a circular perspective and more transparency, that seems to be where there's more and more opportunity creating. I don't think we're out of it yet. We've got 6 months to a year of really drastic change to be happening. But I think it's been a great couple of years for startups in general to kind of strengthen the industry. There's been so much innovation, there's been so many new opportunities.
100%.
And I think we're coming out of it now at the other end, where you can see venture capital actually getting really excited. You can see that trust coming back into the market, and you can see there's interest in pitch decks, there's interest in more adventurous ideas, let's say that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely not been an easy road, but very much a welcomed one looking back. And I think where we're at now, we're so much closer to our vision than we were before that. And if we would have grown the business pre-COVID, we would have our labor would have to grow significantly, and our team would have to grow in such a way where the scalability would have been very questionable to raise another round after that one. So I think for us, having to scale down to then slowly scale up again makes a lot more sense now. Yeah,
that's great. I'm interested. So you mentioned, like, obviously, well, everything you just said, it kind of lends me to believe it was a trying period and tough and so forth. I mean, me personally, I've had issues with mental health stuff in the past, anxiety and depression, this and that, and what have you. And I also take the performance of whatever I'm putting my mind to, but like in business, I take it very personally. I shouldn't. And we're going really great now, have been for a while, very, very comfortable. Last year when COVID hit, Athyna, we lost 70% of our revenue in the space of about 4 weeks. But it was actually interesting because for the first time, I was quite empathetic to myself. We had to let a lot of people go. I thought we were going to have to shut the doors, but I seemed to get through it okay, considering my past with how I ride the ups and downs. I think because I was a little empathetic to the situation. We didn't put ourselves here. It's a shock. It's a freak occurrence kind of thing. How did you get through that whole period? So, a lot of businesses, an emotional roller coaster at the best of times, not taking into account a global pandemic. So, people out there starting businesses, people listening to this show are probably going to go out and start a business at some point. What did you do to stay in it while you were going through total change of business model, global pandemic, bootstrapping the company and so forth? Talk to us about that. We'd love to hear.
Yeah, good question. Some days would be drinking a 4-pack of beer.
Back to the beer days, eh? Yeah, calling up the old employer. Hey, any jobs going on at the moment? I'm just thinking of getting back into the industry. Yeah.
No, a really good question, and it's going back to that moment where you're going back to this to take one step at a time and only just that one step and keep stepping, and hope and trust that you're gonna get there. And I must be very honest. I didn't know at the start of COVID and when all that kind of things started to happen that we were gonna get through. So there's indeed lots of anxiety, extreme insecurity, having to fork up $100,000 yourself again to put into the business, and making that decision to do that, knowing that the risk factor is extremely high. You gotta have a lot of faith in your vision and in your mission as a business. And it's what you said before, you're very personally involved and you take it personal. Same with Farmwall. I think it's a way to be involved in your business where if you're on that journey where you're gonna make this happen, not only for the business but for yourself to prove that you can take something from point A to point B, and being pretty much willing to wherever it ends, it's gonna be okay. Just having that mindset. I find a lot of support in my team as well. I've been very lucky throughout the whole period to have incredible people around me who kind of were capable of hitting the ground running every day. It's okay, this is what we got to do. Let's do it, and kind of go get mentality. Let's make it happen. I think it's extremely powerful in a startup when you have people around that are not waiting for instructions or this is how you do this is how you do that, this is how you do that. It's like, okay, this is where we need to go.
Yeah, figure it out. Yeah,
no,
cool. So yeah, you go.
like,
Sorry.
maybe I'll just add to that, like meditation, like a transcendental meditation is something I do to keep myself back with my feet on the ground, spending time in nature, going for long walks, take the dog, and just like having a few people I can just kind of give them a word vomit and just kind of can just let it all out and not I think that this kind of mentorships are very, very important. And yeah, it's if you do what you love and you're convinced that what you're doing is in line with your values and with your natural aptitudes, I feel like you can keep going like
100%.
Much longer than if you like if I was still selling beer, I would have and I started a company like in brewing or something I wasn't 100% convinced of, I would have absolutely I would have gone like
yeah.
But because it's
For
so close to who I am, it would be like giving up on myself. So
yeah,
and it's
entrepreneurs
very hard to give up on yourself.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's why this show's called Too Weird to Live, Too Rare to Die. You know, that's the byline of an entrepreneur, really. You know, like truly the craziest people on the face of the earth. And mate, I'm really stoked to hear that. You know, earlier in the show you mentioned that you're super excited and things are back moving. I mean, because when it is good and when it's all trending in the right direction, you know, it's so exciting. I have issues sleeping when things are going really well. Things have been going really well for a while now, like, you know, and it's so funny. Like I have trouble sleeping because I'm like a little kid at Christmas every morning when I wake up, and I want to just jump into my phone, see what's been going on. We've got a global team, so there's always things going on. There's always things getting moved forward, and but really glad to hear that that you know you're back in that excited stage, and so you know. We'll throw it over to Wallo in a moment for a few questions before we wrap it up. But here, so in terms of Farmwall, like the larger vision and how are you going to get there? Like where would you want to be in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time? Like if we catch up, 2031, what are you going to be telling me? Like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you that we've succeeded in our mission to get a Farmwall in every school and every office and every restaurant and every shared housing community. And we've got a Farmwall community on every smartphone. And the outcome is that we've now have a population that's educated about growing food in a sensible, sustainable way. They understand a regenerative approach to growing food. And we've inspired thousands of people in the city to get back into the country and start working on farms in a regenerative way. Our produce is now healthier and more transparent, and we come together a lot more in person, sharing our meals and sharing conversations about where the food comes from.
Sick, man. That's a great vision, and I wish you all the best. I'm sure you'll get there. So but before we wrap it up, I'm just going to throw it over to Wallo. He's got a few questions that we asked to our guests. So over to you, Wallo. He's not going to sing them, by the way. These will be spoken word questions.
Come on.
Ripped off.
Set the bar.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if you've gotten this before, but like, what are your favorite books right now? And I think favorite books from the past, both categories, I guess. You know, so what are you reading now, and what did you really enjoy reading in the past? Like two books.
I'm reading a book now from Tim Flannery on the climate emergency. In eye of the COVID solutions. So how the world has basically reacted very quickly and intensely to COVID, and tech and everything has been evolved in a very interesting way. That is basically the perfect solution for climate change as well. And the book kind of challenges the idea of like, if we can do this for COVID, why are we not acting in a sensible way like that towards climate? So that's what I'm reading now at the moment. Regarding to other books that I've really enjoyed over the past, I think people have heard me say this many times, is the book from Ken Robinson, Finding Your Element. And Ken Robinson, as an educator as well, like how the education system needs to change and be more about the person rather than the person fitting into the system. But like how learning how to find your elements kind of really can drive you as a person and empower you as a person. That's definitely one that's always high on my bookshelf. Yeah. Then the usual suspects, 7 Habits is one I go back to regularly. Think and Grow Rich makes a lot of sense in different ways. So having a deep desire in front of you to drive certain outcomes as well. Yeah, and then a bit of gardening magazines.
Yeah, I have a question related to that actually, but okay, let me ask you this one. This one is related to the books actually. I don't know if it's a repeated one to you, but what are you most curious about right now? Like, what is interesting you? My mind is full of stuff, so if you ask me, I can't.
Yeah,
but I'm asking.
To be honest, it's one of the topics we haven't covered. And then we said in the beginning we were going to get to, but it's like how cryptocurrencies are going to change our environment, and now with the GovCoin coming out, or the news of GovCoins potentially becoming reality, how that's going to change our economic approach, and how it's going to change business, and how can we as startups, even though we're not a cryptocurrency company, how can we start adapt that crypto thinking into our models. Super interested to learn as much about it as I can.
Yeah. For good reason. I mean, it changed the whole world. Everyone went crazy thanks to Elon and his activities. Yeah, people kind of hate him right now because like he took it up, then brought it down. Anyway, the next question is about this one is kind of out of the structure. This one is kind of from me to you. What do you eat the most out of your garden?
Good question. It's nasturtium leaves, little rosemary, like oregano, thyme, and red vein sorrel is always growing around. So gets picked every day. Little lettuces are growing everywhere, like charts, a wide variety of things. Yeah.
Cool. So variety actually. That means I shouldn't have asked you that since you already said variety. Yeah. I don't know, Doc, what do you think about this one? I'm curious about his podcast. Some people don't listen to podcasts, some people do. So I don't know if you were to recommend a podcast to an entrepreneur who starts, maybe something about wellness or something that energizes you, which one would you like pick?
Good question, and I would say I have a hard time answering that. Yeah, I'm not proactive on the podcasts, like
exactly.
and to listen. It's like and that's purely time. A time reason. And
you've stitched him up there, Wallow. You've stitched him up big time there.
Yeah. I gave him
cut it out, right?
wiggle room.
Yeah, that's right. Scrap the show. Cut.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to maybe to go. Now that my mind's just caught up on me. Like the last podcast I listened to and driving from Melbourne to Sydney, which was not, when there was no lockdown going on, it was Joe Rogan, with where he's interviewing the guy about the UFOs.
I listened to about 20 minutes of that one, and I was like, nah, I can't go this deep. I can't get into this. So we know we're going to get you out of here. Here, thanks, Wallo, for for the questions. Hey, here, when people want to learn more about yourself, want to learn more about Farmwall, where would they go? Plug anything that you need.
Yeah, straight to our website at the moment, farmwall.com, and reach out. Like we're always there on the help and the support. And if you've got any questions, let us know. Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, fantastic problem to be solving. Awesome stuff. Thanks so much for your time. And yeah, that's it from us.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. It's a great experience and a great way to start the Friday and the weekend. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, after being serenaded.
Who are you going to serenade next, Wallow? Who are you off to serenade next? All right. Cool.
Yeah.
No worries. Thanks, team.
Have a good one.
Cheers. Ciao, ciao.